They say the jungle forgets nothing, but that week it remembered only one thing: a mother tiger walking silently through the trees, carrying the lifeless body of her cub gently between her jaws, as if refusing to let death steal him away. For 5 days, no animal dared cross her path. Even the wind moved quieter, because grief, true grief, has a scent. And that mother tiger's sorrow was so heavy that every leaf seemed to bow in respect. Asha, the young tigress of Bondirpur, had always been gentle despite her fierce strength. Just weeks earlier, she had given birth to 2 tiny cubs. They were helpless, blind, soft little creatures who could barely crawl, but whose faint squeaks filled her den with warmth. She had never known love like the love she felt when their small bodies pressed against her belly in search of milk. Every breath they took felt like a promise the world had finally kept for her. But the wild does not honor promises. On a quiet morning when the sun painted gold over the trees, Asha noticed one of her cubs growing unusually still. At first, she nudged him, believing he was simply tired. When he didn't respond, she licked him with long, warm strokes, believing her tongue could wipe away whatever was wrong. She curled around him, sharing her heat, waiting for the small rise and fall of his chest to return. It did not. Asha stayed beside the tiny, lifeless body for hours. She nudged him again and again, refusing to accept the cold truth settling over her world. She lifted her head to the sky and let out a soft, trembling huff, the closest thing a tiger has to a broken sob. Then, with the gentleness of a mother waking her sleeping child, she picked him up between her jaws, and she began to walk. No one in the forest understood at first. The spotted deer froze mid-step. The longers, always loud and mocking, went silent as she passed beneath their branches. Even the predators, jackals, wild dogs, the lone wandering leopard, watched from a respectful distance. They sensed something different in her walk. This was not a tiger on the hunt. This was a mother carrying a grief too deep for the forest to ignore. Rain clouds gathered that night, but Asha did not stop. She rested only briefly under a fallen tree, shielding her cub from the drizzle with her body. Her rain soaked her fur. Her whiskers trembled with exhaustion. Still, she groomed the cub carefully, her tongue smoothing fur that no longer clung to life. To her, he was not gone. He was sleeping. He needed her, and she would not leave him. Rangers, watching from afar, whispered to each other in disbelief. "She's still carrying him," one said, voice breaking. None of them dared intervene. The forest was witnessing something sacred, something even humans had no right to disturb. By the 3rd day, Asha's body had grown thin. Hunger pressed on her ribs. Yet, whenever prey wandered close, she turned away. Her cub remained her only focus. She walked through tall grasses, through shallow streams, through shadows and moonlight, carrying him as if each step might bring him back to her. Animals felt her sorrow before they saw her. Asha did not roar, did not attack, did not rest. She simply moved, steady, heartbroken, determined. Her eyes were dull with exhaustion, but her grip on the cub never loosened. On the 4th night, she lay beside the riverbed, placing the cub gently on the smooth stones. She curled around him, her tail covering his tiny form, as if protecting him from the night's chill. When a pack of wild dogs approached, drawn by the scent of death, Asha lifted her head and released a deep growl, low, warning, filled with a pain that shook even the predators into retreat. Her grief had made her vulnerable, but it had also made her fearless. By dawn of the 5th day, her legs shook under her weight. Each movement was slow, drained, heavy. Yet she continued, cradling her cub as delicately as she had when he'd first opened his eyes. She walked until she reached a quiet clearing covered in moss and wildflowers. There, for the first time in 5 days, she paused. Asha placed the cub down with heartbreaking tenderness. She nudged him softly, then again and again. 3 times, each nudge more desperate than the one before. Her chest rose and fell with shaking breaths. Her whiskers quivered. The moment stretched, silent and unbearable. And finally, as if something inside her finally broke, she rested her head beside his still body and closed her eyes. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. When she rose again, she touched her cheek to his one last time, a mother's final kiss. Her breath lingered on his tiny fur, as if memorizing it forever. Then she turned away. Her steps were slow, reluctant, fragile. She walked without looking back, carrying with her the invisible weight of a love that would never fade. The forest watched her leave, every creature knowing it had witnessed something pure and sacred, something far deeper than instinct. In the days that followed, rangers noticed Asha hunting again, though her movements were softer, her eyes older. Weeks later, news spread through the reserve that she was pregnant once more. The forest stirred with hope. She would be a mother again, stronger, wiser, carrying the memory of the cub she had loved so fiercely that even death could not separate them for 5 long days. Because love, true, wild, eternal love, lives longer than life itself, and the jungle, which forgets nothing, would forever remember the mother who carried her heartbreak through the trees, one step at a time.